Hey, it's Cody Grant with Back Talk Syndicate for another podcast. Expensive basketball. What does that mean? George Norwood jumped on with me as this is going to be something a little bit different than what we are used to. We read a book. Yes, Shea Serrano wrote Expensive Basketball. It came out earlier in 2025, and I'm not a big reader. This book got me to read probably 10 more already in the last like 6 months. It was incredible. If you're a basketball fan, a must read. George and I went through it and just brought up all of our memories of what this book wrote about. You know, Klay Thompson's 37-point quarter, Shaquille O'Neal's dunk stats, Ray Allen, Reggie Miller, Kobe Bryant, Tim Duncan, Dirk Nowitzki, Nikola Jokic. The list goes on and on. Just a fun basketball conversation between two diehard fans. Take a listen. George, about like, I don't know, maybe a few months ago, I remember texting you. I think this is not an overreaction. It is one of the most important things I ever written to you through text message. I was at a bookstore in town that just opened about a 7-minute walk from my house. Went there with my wife. She's a huge reader, loves all these fiction, sci-fi, romance, like everything that have no interest on my end. But she's a nerd when it comes to books. And over the years of my life, I've bought probably 30 to 50 books. They're all sitting on a bookshelf in my basement that I can see. They're all displayed. I've probably read 5% of them. So I'm not a big reader. But in this bookstore, I saw this one book standing in the sports section. Very plain. It was called Expensive Basketball. I was like, man, what's that about? And I opened to the first couple pages just to see the contents and the chapters. And I remember just sending you the picture of the cover and then the pictures of the chapters. And I was like, I think I found my favorite book of all time before even reading it.
You know what? That's accurate. I am literally looking at the text message now. It says, "Pick this up today. Looks incredible."
Hmm.
And I was like, "Where did you get it?" Jay is one of my favorite follows on Twitter.
Yeah, written by Shea Serrano. I listen to him all the time on the Bill Simmons podcast. And when you got that text, you told me how much you love Shea Serrano. I didn't
Yeah, he's a,
even know
he's a
he was a writer.
gr- yeah. Well, I also didn't know he was a writer. He's a great follow on Twitter, especially if you're watching like a big stakes game. I also love the fact that he dives into the women's game, and one of my favorite follows when there's a big WNBA game or a big women's college game. He's constantly tweeting. He's in it. He's watching it. He is one of my favorite follows on Twitter. So when you sent it over to me, I was like, "Oh, Shay is one of my favorite follows on Twitter. I'm probably going to like this." And then once I read the contents, I was like, "This is really interesting." I saw Reggie and I saw Diana on the second picture. I was like, "Okay,
You were
this
locked
this
in.
might this might be incredible."
Yeah, and if you haven't heard of this book, it is new. You found that out. I thought it was maybe a few years old, and it was just written this year in
Brand spanking new.
2025. Right. And what drew me into it is because you and me have had a bunch of basketball conversations in our, what, maybe 4, 5, has it been 6, 7 years of friendship? And the way that Shay kind of dives in to set up what this book is about is if you brought a person and said who was not a basketball fan, who knew nothing about basketball, and you put a gun to their head and said, if you get this wrong, I'm going to shoot you. Joakim Noah's jump shot or Ray Allen's jump shot, which jump shot is more expensive? And that person would know it's Ray Allen. And that is what this book is about. It's not about stats. It's about moments. It's about watching a player do something that is just wow. incredible. Double take, hang on, rewind, watch it again. And it's just perfect for the type of basketball that you and me talk about on probably a 21 6.5 schedule.
That's
Not
accurate.
24/7 because we have to sleep. But yeah, I would say 21 6.5 is pretty accurate.
Yeah, the way you text me every time somebody's in a 2-3 zone, that's it's incredible. That's exactly how our friendship was built, and it's moments, it's players, it's draft classes. It's just once you know something, like you can feel when something is expensive. I thought he really put this hammered this home. If you're still like on the fence with it, here's in Shea's words. It's an affirmation of how sometimes you watch a person do a thing on a basketball court and it feels the same way it feels when you lie in the grass at night and stare up at the moon for long enough that you start to think about how incredible it is that you really, truly, honestly, actually exist. And that is perfect in regards to how something can be expensive.
Yeah, and I saw an interview that Shay did about this book, and I just wanted to read this 2, 3 sentence thing that he said. I just want them to go like, "Oh, I remember. I remember that. I felt something. I felt alive. I felt it. I felt like this is why I watch sports. Not because I want to see somebody score 100 points in a game, but because I want to know what it feels like when somebody scores 100 points or whatever. You know what I mean?" And I'm
Yep.
like, "Shay, I know what you mean. We
Yep.
are on the same page there."
1000%. In 307 pages, he does that. And there's so many times in this book, I'm like, I remember that. I felt that. I know what he's talking about, and I couldn't agree more. I don't think he missed with any of these chapters.
No,
All
definitely
of
not.
this is on brand. This is they are expensive moments, 100%.
And it's crazy, as big of a basketball fan as I am, and I know that you are, and I'm sure you're in the same boat as me because we're the same age. We're both 34 years old. There were moments in games that I didn't know anything about. Like
Yep.
when he talked about the that Suns playoff game in the 70s, like I have to go back and YouTube that game and watch it because he says it's the greatest game of all time.
I want to watch it. I was going to bring that up, and I wanted to see if you wanted to watch it together. I want to watch
Mm.
that game.
George, when you come up to my house, we're gonna watch Hustle and then that game in the 70s.
When I was reading it, I was like, I've never seen this game. I've never heard of this game. And when he said he went back and he actually watched it, he's like, yeah, it felt like it was the best game that was ever played. I was like, I need to see this game.
You wanna kinda, like, just give the chapters out here, like, kinda what he talks about? I mean, it's basically every great player you can think of almost, but they go into each chapter the way he looks at that player is completely different. He basically compares Allen Iverson to Jesus Christ. He has this
And
whole
it works.
numerology thing with yeah, and it works, and then the numerology thing with Michael Jordan, and it works.
Yep.
The rebounding stats of Dennis Rodman, the dunking stats of Shaquille O'Neal, Kobe Bryant's final 196 seconds of his career. I mean, I was just hooked. There's not a chapter in here that I didn't fall in love with. And I told this to you before we started recording that this might be a book that I'm looking at reading once or twice every year because it's so good. It's almost like watching your favorite TV show or favorite movie.
Yeah. And it has you can go back and read just one of these chapters. I know we talked about this, or one of my favorite chapters in the book is the Asia Wilson vengeance chapter. And you told me before I got there that that was your favorite up to that point, and I
Yep.
was like, cool. I was like, awesome. And so I saved it. I saved it. I was like, okay, now I can give it its full attention. The way I could have ran through a wall after just reading that chapter. Oh, it was incredible. It was absolutely
So
incredible.
we have 5 followers on Twitter, and I replied to, Shay's pinned tweet. The Asia Wilson chapter had me ready to run through a fucking brick wall, and he retweeted it. It was
I love
like
him.
a little fun moment for Back Talk Syndicate there, getting some praise. I think it led to us getting one more follower, but it takes time to grow. So
100%. No, that chapter was brilliantly written, and it captured the moment, the 2 years of absolute dominance from Asia Wilson. She's still dominating now. Uh, it was incredible. It was absolutely incredible, and the way he was able to kind of make you feel like I feel like if you didn't see it, if you weren't there, he was able to relate it to something to bring you there or push you in the right direction to make you really realize what that chapter is about. When the Larry Bird chapter with the carousel, and I was like, that is just, it's brilliant in regards to like comparing. Oh, some players have Olympic podiums for moments, and how Larry Bird has a carousel, how Jordan has a carousel. Brilliant. I love. Oh, this book is. I can go on for days about how awesome this book is.
I love your take on that too, because they truly put you in the moment. I mean, Shea uses all these announcer feeds where
Yes.
it brings you back to I remember where I was watching Kobe Bryant's last game, and I didn't realize that was the same like, I didn't never put 2 and 2 together that the Warriors were going for the fricking record, and they
Never.
were on ESPN1, and ESPN didn't realize that Kobe was a bigger moment than the Bulls in '96 losing their
Didn't
72 win record. Like,
didn't even know Golden State was on
no,
TV.
no.
Had no idea. Yeah, I'm
And
watching Kobe.
that's what expensive basketball is. Like that's the crazy thing. Like I know the Warriors went 73-9. I know they have the record. OKC may make a run at that record this year, but I
You're not wrong.
remember Kobe's last game in a meaningless game for the Lakers because it was Kobe being Bryant.
Putting up 60. That, that
60.
that's a good way to end the book. That's the last chapter. No spoilers, but like that's the last chapter. Uh, and that's such a good way to end this book because that was truly you knew you were watching something special.
Did you have it's hard to say for me because each chapter meant something different to me.
Agreed.
Whether I remember the moment or I remember the player or I didn't because I learned about it. I'm not a big WNBA fan, but you mentioned like the Asia Wilson chapter was my favorite up to that point, and I never watched her play basketball. And this book has me wanting to watch Asia Wilson play basketball because it did have me ready to run through a wall.
Cody can't afford that. That's how expensive it is. Can't afford that. It is absolute brilliance on the floor on both ends, not just offensive, both ends. I'm not gonna lie. That's one of the reasons why it kind of drew me in. I'm a big WNBA guy,
Right.
but I also love the NBA. And the fact that I was able to see a chapter about Sue Bird, about Diana, about Asia, I was instantly in. Instantly in. I was like, this is going to be great. And those chapters were really, really good. The Sue Bird backpedal is 100% a thing. 100% a thing. And it's kind of hard to kind of choose a favorite chapter in this book. It's because there's so much in every single turn of the page. And I think the brilliance of it is when he does talk about stuff that I'm not 100% familiar with, and I'm going to shout out probably one of my favorite chapters because I remember the 1993 Charlotte Hornets team. I didn't realize what that team was until reading this book. I knew
Yeah.
Muggsy was on the team. I knew Larry Johnson was on the team. Young Morning. I knew they were special. I knew they were building something. I didn't know what they were in 1993. I was two.
I knew they had 2 representatives in the movie Space Jam, which is crazy to think about because they weren't even that good of a team.
I was how does that happen? And now and when it's explained, I was like, okay, those they were on top of the world. They were on top of basketball world.
One of my favorite podcasts is a, wrestling podcast, Insight with Chris Van Vliet, And he
Love.
has something he says all the time, and it totally applies to this book. Nostalgia is a hell of a drug,
It
and
sure
it
is.
brings you back to those moments. And I just have like it's the perfect book for a basketball fan that remembers those moments, that maybe doesn't remember the stats or you know how many games it took for that team to close out that team or what their record was that year, but you remember that play,
Yeah.
you remember that moment. Like, I can take you back. My dad and grandpa, split season tickets with 2 other guys, so I used to go to about 15 Bulls games a year because my dad would take me and my grandpa would take me, and I remember they were playing Denver in, like, 2007, and they were down by 1, and Ben Gordon took a shot, from the short corner, and it bounced high off the rim, and Tyrese Thomas tipped it in at the buzzer. Like, meaningless game. The Bulls were not that good, but Tyrese Thomas, I remember his game winner against Denver. Like
Mm.
that's the funny part, and that's kind of like the fan that Shea is speaking to with expensive basketball, and I just love it.
Yeah. He he's one of us, Cody, and
He's one of us.
he shows it so clear in here. He is absolutely one of us, where we've seen so much basketball, and we could walk in on a pickup game and we can find something expensive about that pickup game. It's absolutely incredible, and I think he did a really good job here. This was a damn near 10 out of 10.
And I'll give it an 11 out of 10, honestly. But it's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
first book I've read in a long time. But it's
So
gotten me into reading. Like now, I bought another book. After I finished this, American Kings, the quarterback book, by Seth
mhm.
Rickersham, and now like I'm almost done with that book.
Yeah,
And then
and
before we started this podcast, I just bought another book from Shea Serrano. Uh, I'm now blanking on the name, but I have it in my Amazon cart order place.
ba-
It's
basketball and other things.
yeah, Basketball and Other Things. I just bought that like
And
30 minutes ago.
I'm going to buy that one as well. That was before this one. I wish I would have knew that he was a writer like this. I would have picked up this so fast. And I thank you, because immediately I went to his Twitter as soon as you said he wrote a book, and sure shit, he is on there just pictures and talking about the book. I was like, why doesn't my Twitter show me this? Like, show me the good stuff. I would have bought that. I would have pre-ordered this. I
Turn
100% would have
notifications on,
pre-ordered.
man. Turn
Yeah.
notifications on. Every time he tweets, you get it.
Well, he sometimes he tweets a little bit too much if he's watching the game and I'm not watching the game. I mean,
One of my favorite chapters I want to talk about, because this is the most expensive basketball player that I'm aware of, because he wasn't in NBA standards a great player, but Jason Williams, the ball wasn't there. I
talk about it,
still,
Cody.
to this day, I will go back and watch highlight reels of Jason Williams with his behind the back passes, his no looks, just the vision he had, just the point guard that he was. And then in the rookie sophomore game when he hit it off his elbow, like just so fucking awesome. Just brought an element of street ball to the NBA. Like, no, you look at his stats and you're like, he's not a good player, but he was one of the most exciting players to watch in the NBA at that time.
100%. I don't think he was ever an all-star or anything like that, but if you're a fan of the NBA, you know about Jason Williams, and the fact that he was able to, one, include him in this book. But I think he needed a chapter about him. Like you said, it's somebody that's not a superstar, that doesn't have MVPs, that never won a scoring championship. Like, none of that is in his resume. But if you know ball, you know Jason Williams was him when it came to that ball and finding teammates and just making that game so much fun. You're bringing street ball to the NBA and putting a little flair on things, and then him talking about the Gary Payton moment. That everybody remembers that. It's memorable. Watching Gary Payton get crossed up by Jay Will, and this little white boy rookie with a 3XL jersey on. Just making it look easy. Oh man, you're right. That's one of my favorite chapters as well.
And then not to mention like the whole chapter about Giannis, because I was there watching that whole finals run
That's
with the
special.
Bucks, and they barely get by Brooklyn. Kevin Durant was his foot was a size smaller. They probably win that game because he was stepping on the line because he has what size 16, 17 shoes.
Yeah.
And Giannis, who is a notoriously horrible free throw shooter, It's 17 of 19 from the free throw line in Game 6 and has put up 50 points and one of the best closeout finals performances in NBA history against the Phoenix Suns to give the Bucks their first championship since Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Expensive.
Expensive.
That's a price tag. That is 100% a moment. I remember that moment. Shout out to Giannis, even though I don't like him right now. That Pacers Bucks rivalry is so good right now.
Well, right now they're both bad.
Yeah, they're both. It's bad. It's bad. No, but that was an exciting moment, and that it captured Giannis on a different level. Like he had made it. He had made it. He had finally it like etched his name into the history of the NBA. He got his. Now he's trying to get more, but that Game 6 closeout was so important.
Totally. I do have, reading through this book, thinking about this, one of my thoughts was, who is the most expensive player in NBA history?
I, oof,
Impossible
you know,
question to answer.
it's impossible because as much as here's what I'll say. First person that came to mind, Magic.
Yep.
That's the first person that came to mind. But in the same breath, if if I was talking to somebody maybe born in like 2000, if they said Steph Curry, I'd have no argument.
Dude, I think Jokic is up there. And I have
Yes,
no arguments with Magic. I have no arguments with Steph Curry. But like you just watch a game and no box score that you're following, and you just are amazed at what you're seeing because what you're seeing you've never seen before.
yes.
That's Shaquille O'Neal. That's Giannis Antetokounmpo. That's Michael Jordan. That's Kobe Bryant. That's Steph Curry. That's Magic Johnson. That's Larry Bird. That's Tim Duncan. That's Dirk Nowitzki. Unicorns, absolute unicorns. And you can say that, yeah, there are definitely players that paved the way for players like that. And there's players in today's game that resemble players of the past, but there will never be another Magic Johnson. There will never be another Tim Duncan. There will never be another Kobe Bryant. There will never be another Michael Jordan. There'll be players that you can probably put in the future on their level of style and talent, but that specific player, there's not they're one of one. And that's
They
what
are
this book
one.
looks at,
Yep.
the one of one expensive basketball players. And yeah, I have too much to say about this because like I really wanted to spend the next 18 hours and review every chapter with you, but obviously that's going to be too long. So, um, but I could totally do that. We can make this a 10-parter if we wanted to.
We could because that's how much this book has in it. And if you like the NBA, if you like basketball, this is 100% a book for us. 1000% a book for us. And I've got to give a shout out to Ian Clower, the guy that did the pictures in the book.
Oh, they're awesome. Yeah, the art in the
Cody,
book is incredible.
incredible. And I kind of had seen like a Twitter exchange between somebody who had shouted out the illustrations in the book, and I guess it was only he did the Dennis Rodman one first, and as soon as Shea saw the Dennis Rodman one, he's like, "You got to do one for every chapter. You've got to do one for every chapter." And the two there's two that absolutely stand out. The one of them is the Jason Williams picture.
I guess the other one
S- Yeah, the yes,
is the Stu Bird with a face mask.
no, but that was dope. Vince Carter.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I would stop every time because each one had it. You knew it was coming, so every single time I would stop at the picture and I would just be a little bit in awe. And especially for the chapters like the draft class, like who did he choose for that and why? Jokic is in here, which I think is super duper dope. Uh, I love the illustration in here, and it looks like his other book also has some illustration in it as well. I can't wait for that.
I will get it in less than a week. I will let you know how it is.
Yeah, we'll talk about that one too. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I'm just like flipping through the book. Obviously, we both read it. Um, but
Can I want to. So I feel like it's very important for me to mention this. Shay helped me out a little bit. He really did.
Also,
I've I've had this kind of, I don't know, not chip with somebody. I, I don't want to say I don't like Tracy McGrady, but a lot of people will take his career and say he's one of the best shooting guards of all time. And I'm so quick to push back on him. And once I knew that Tracy McGrady had a chapter in this book, I was excited for it because I was ready for finally somebody to sit down, tell me what it is. And the chapter name is The Velvet Brilliance of Tracy McGrady. And by the time I was done with this chapter, there was a new gained respect for McGrady that I didn't have before. And all of these years, I have been just on this man about how he's not as great as you think he is. But when you sit down and Shea explains to you the brilliance of Tracy McGrady, and you start thinking, I went into a YouTube hole when I
mm,
finished this. And I was like, I don't appreciate what he was able to do enough. And I've spent years on that train. And I will tip my hat to Tracy McGrady. He did play defense.
I,
There's proof.
I love it. I love it. You know what's ironic too?
Hmm.
I'm gonna kind of put you on the spot here, but Tracy McGrady, I feel like completely different players. Don't get me wrong, completely different stats, completely different accomplishments, but kind of had a similar career to Reggie Miller in the sense he was clutch. He had his own Reggie Miller moment on the
Sure did.
Rockets against the Spurs. Never won a championship, but was always considered a big moment guy, and one of and McGrady, of course, um, dragged a lot of teams to the playoffs. You know, he had that terrible Orlando team, and then he had that little run with Yao Ming in Houston. But similar as far as where are they talked about in basketball greats? Because yeah, a lot of people will say, "Oh, you need a championship. You need a championship." But like, I'm not. I never subscribe to that. I don't think championship is the most important thing because you can have a great player that's just not in the best situation at the right time. And then you can look at like, oh, the entire '90s players, they had to go up against Jordan every year.
Yep. Yep. I see what you're putting down. The only glaring difference is that Reggie at least got out of the first round.
He did. He
Uh,
did. He did.
yeah, and that's something I hold against McGrady all the time, but I've got to come off of that. I really got, and this, I'm not kidding. This book helped so much with us. There's no beef there, so we didn't like mend or get like make up or anything like that. But at least I was able to kind of realize how brilliant Tracy McGrady was.
One of my favorite things too, and you brought this up, how Shea will use like hip hop references when talking about Steph
Yes,
Curry. I'm a movie guy, and so is Shea. He uses a
yes,
good Will Hunting reference to talk about Dennis Rodman rebounding.
yeah. And
And
what's awesome is that you picked up on that. I was like, oh, okay, this is
yeah,
a movie. And then when I was reading the Step chapter, I was like, this is for me. Got it.
right.
Yes,
Yeah, that Rodman chapter was for me, not only because I'm a Bulls fan, but also Good Will Hunting is in my top 10 favorite movies of all time.
love
And
that.
if you were to compare Will Hunting, who's a genius, Dennis Rodman is that to rebounding the basketball. Like the stats that like I know he's like the greatest rebounder of all time, but just reading the stats out loud and seeing how much of a difference there were between him and the second guy, it's just remarkable. And he's not the only player in this book that has those outrageous stats. Like Dwayne Wade blocks for guys under 6'4". Shaq's dunks in a season. Like there's so many of it, and it's just it's a great read, and it brings you back to those moments, but also reminds you of, hey, how awesome this dude or girl was at their craft.
Yeah, and he really puts that out there for us. I I have to ask because one of my favorite chapters was the miscellaneous chapter, which was just a chapter full of other expensive basketball moments that don't have a chapter. And so, Cody, was there in your mind, Is there anything from that chapter or anything that he didn't mention in that chapter that you think uh, could be a really good chapter? I know it's a book. He could have probably had this be 1,000 pages, and I would have read every single one. But like, is there any of those in that chapter, or like ones that he didn't mention, that you think would be a dope chapter for him to write?
Totally, and this is not a knock on Shea. Like I said, this is already my favorite book of all time, and this is just me as a Bulls fan. And he did mention it in the miscellaneous. He has one sentence on it: the 2009 Celtics Bulls Eastern Conference first round series. I
Oof.
know it's a first round series, but is without a doubt, inarguably, the best first round series in NBA history, and it features one of the most expensive basketball players, albeit a short run, in Derrick Rose,
Yep.
where he scores 36 in game one. Bulls win. Celtics fight back and win game two. Three games in that seven-game series went to overtime, and there were a total of, I believe, seven overtimes. Game six went to three overtimes, ended with Joakim Noah stealing the ball from Paul Pierce and dunking over him. Joakim Noah, shout out to him, coming out party. He did mention at the start when I referenced back the jump shot between him and Ray Allen. But yeah, I mean, if it was up to me and Shea put out a poll or a sweepstakes contest, like, hey, we're going to have entrants, and whoever wins this drawing gets to give me an idea, and I write a full chapter on it. That would be my chapter, the 2009 Bulls Celtics first round, and do a whole like 4 or 5 pages on the Rajon Rondo Kirk Heinrich fight, because Kirk Heinrich's a G.
Straight up G.
How about you?
Straight up. I, so that was one of my first off. One of the reasons why that was one of my favorites is because at that point in time of the book, I was so in that I was already starting to think of I didn't know what miscellaneous was going to be.
Yeah,
So I was already starting to think of, wow, like if he's able to if he's able to do that, if he mentions that. So when I saw what this chapter was going to be, I was super pumped. I was like, okay, let's see if we're on the same page. To the point I starred a bunch of them that would 3,000% I agree with, and that would have probably popped in my head. The one that I will say that I didn't see here that I feel like if he told me I could write one chapter and I would love to dive in, it is the 2001-02 Sacramento Kings team.
yeah,
And just how much fun it was to watch them. It's my favorite team. I'm a big Pacers fan, huge Pacers fan, but my favorite NBA team of all time is the 2001-02 Sacramento Kings when they trade a Jason Williams for a Mike Bibby and start going on a run. And these guys just made basketball so fun with their passing. I had never seen the ball shared on a floor like that with a team, and they were good. They were so good. They literally should have beat the Shaq and Kobe Lakers good.
yep,
Like they had everything. A young Hito Turkoglu and Bobby Jackson coming off the bench, and just like the grittiness of a Scott Pollard and a Vlade Divac, and you had superstars like Peja Stojakovic and Chris Webber, and there's just I could go on about this team and the way they played, and they were no punks. It's normally when you get that style, it's probably like a calm team or maybe a team that's not too flashy. This team was flashy, but they also had attitudes. They weren't backing down from anybody. Doug Christie on defense, he's bringing it every night. Scott Pollard as well. He's gonna mess you up around the rim. It was they were such a fun team, and immediately when we're talking about expensive things, I immediately thought of this Kings team. I was like, that's why they're my favorite team of all time. I'm not a
yeah.
Kings fan
We
at
did a
all.
whole 2K run with the Kings because of that 2001 Kings team.
Yeah, I wanted to capture that. Oh my god, I wanted to capture that.
Dude, I think you would be in full agreement here with me if Shea Serrano were to jump back in and just write a book on just the miscellaneous chapter with everything he put in there. Dude, I would be at the stand paying $100 for that book. And I pointed out a couple of things on here. One thing I wanted to bring up in 8th grade on my basketball team, because Shea put in Nick Van Exel's socks, also Nick
Yes.
Van Exel's free throws, also Nick Van Exel
Yes.
in general. So in 8th grade basketball, we were practicing, and I just, for some reason, had this obsession with Nick Van Exel. I couldn't
Oh,
even, I think he was on the Mavericks at that time, but I couldn't honestly even tell you who he played for. But in practice, one day, my coach, Mr. Russell, Coach Russell, I stand 5 feet behind the free throw line. He's like, Cody, what the fuck are you doing? Like, I thought I was like, well, I just feel more comfortable here, but like, it's just because of Nick Van Exel. And then another thing, David Robinson scoring 71 points in the final game of the 1994 season to win the scoring title. My dad hates David Robinson because of that moment. He's like, only reason Scottie Pippen didn't win MVP is because he kept feeding David Robinson the last game of the season to score 71
uh,
points to win the scoring title. I'm like, I don't remember the moment because I was only 2.5 or 3 years old, but I remember my dad hating David Robinson and the Spurs because he cost Scottie Pippen an MVP in 1994.
I see, and that's what was so fun about that chapter because even though you had stuff on the floor, you also had stuff that was like kind of out, like the socks or the fact that
Yeah,
Jermaine O'Neal wearing a headband is like the coolest thing in the world. And then all of a sudden you pull up a picture of Jermaine O'Neal, it's like, wow, yeah, he really does make that headband
he
look like it's the
rocks
coolest
it.
thing. I,
Dude,
I I'm a Pacer fan. I never
yeah.
thought about that. I had never thought about that. And then all of a sudden you pull it up. I was like, whoa, he does look like a G. And then all of a sudden you see him with it off. I was like, I don't think I could. Like, that doesn't make sense. That's not expensive. Jermaine O'Neal without a headband, not expensive. That's cheap.
No, no. And then like I laughed out loud like Tyson Chandler tapping rebounds backward because I just remember watching early 2000 Bulls games with my dad and like, why are you not grabbing the rebound?
Yep.
Get the block and hold it. Like, why are you tapping it? Just grab the rebound. And he would
Yes.
always do that. And then he would block shots like into the 15th row. It was cool, but like, you know, watch some Bill Russell tape and like maybe you would help your team more. And eventually, of course, he did win a championship with the Mavericks after he matured a little bit. But I just remember those moments of like, yeah, he did do that. Like Tyson
Yep.
Chandler, and it pissed me off as a
Y-
Bulls fan. He's got Joakim Noah talking shit here. Um, that was awesome. Jimmy Butler, when he's an underdog in a high stakes game, he was a 30th overall pick and became a superstar through hard work and just making himself into one. Richard Hamilton just running and running and running and running, who I hated because I was a Bulls fan, and just Kirk Heiner trying to keep up with them, running around screens like he was just, you know, the Energizer Bunny and had no stop. Like he could just go forever, kind of like Ray Allen, kind of like Reggie Miller, but just on another level. I mean, there were so many things in this miss section, and I really love that Shea put this in the book because like we talked about, like, hey, what's one thing you would want to hear more about? Like I said, if he wrote a whole nother book just on this one chapter, I would buy it, I would read it. So Shea,
Immediately.
write that book because I will George and me. If you only have two sales, you know it's going to be George and me.
Yes, because I need him to dive in to Trey Young playing in New York. I need him to dive in to Manu Ginobili's Euro step. I need him to dive in to James Harden's step back three. Like I would pick up a book tomorrow, and I would pay an infinite amount of money to read in like I literally just by stars right now. You can put those in a book, and he can have a part two, a part three. Shay, just never stop writing.
No, no, never stop, never stop. Like the way Scottie Pippen would make it feel like the basketball was as big as a beach ball when he was guarding someone who was trying to dribble. Like it's awesome. Awesome. I
It's
want to hear more about Bill Russell. Like he has Bill Russell in here. Like yeah, blocking the ball
yes.
to his teammates. Like that's what we yelled at Tyson Chandler for not doing. Tim Hardaway's crossover. Like I remember watching Tim Hardaway on tape with that Gold State Warriors team. That guy was so
Yes.
smooth. So yeah, I would totally read a whole entire book. Dominique Wilkins' haircut, like Dominique Wilkins, like before our time, before our era, but just Reeves' coolness, just looked like a
Yes.
baller. And I
And I
love that
know
he gave shout out to Jamal Crawford, by the way, because I'm a
me
huge
too.
Jamal Crawford shake and bake.
Me too. And that's what I loved about is that just like Jason Williams, there are guys and girls that don't get that love from like a mainstream audience, but what they were able to do while they were in their leagues was expensive, and they left their mark in that sense. When he talks about Tamika Catchings, he left off one that I think he would 100% love to. So if he's listening to this, he could totally just take this one. Angel McCautry. Uh, I think just the way she plays the game is expensive. Talk about somebody that's an absolute go getter on both sides of the floor, and I really think that with this book, if you are I've already told like three of my basketball friends. Cody, you are easily, easily number one on that list.
Appreciate it.
But, but like I've already told them, I was like, I know reading isn't the most popular thing in the world, but it was hard to put this down. This is the fastest I've ever read a book.
I finished this
The,
like in I
the
think 2
fastest.
weeks. Um,
Took me
it
about a month.
A month, yeah, but that's good. That's 12 books a
Yes.
year. That's more than probably 90% of the population of America reads. So,
Yeah, and I forgot to mention this. I started listening to the book on audio, and that's kind of how I started getting into
yeah.
reading as of late, is getting to audio. I could not stand the audio guy and the way he was reading us, and so I remember telling you I have got to go buy this book, and I'm so glad I did because I was able to get the illustrations and I was able to kind of feel that out as well, and I was able to make notes in the book, and I love reading. I forgot how much I love reading an actual physical book, so to find one that I liked and just how good he made it, it was hard to put down. I'm so satisfied. I'm so happy I was able to finish this, and I can't wait to start his next one.
Oh, yeah, it's on the way for Did you order it yet? While we were on this podcast, did you get on Amazon and just send in an order?
So I'm a new Barnes and Noble
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's
premium
right.
member, so it is in my cart.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Man, yeah, I'm just going through one of my favorite is shoes squeaking on the basketball court.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, do you
Okay. So
ever Yeah, go ahead.
I know I love that sound. There's some people that are genuinely annoyed by that and they can't watch basketball for it. I don't I turn it up. I need the squeakiness of the basketball shoes on the floor, and I don't like squeaky things, but that's like music to my ears.
I love that he gave Russell Westbrook his flowers too. Like he
Thank
has
you.
a dude. So I remember the triple double run that Russell Westbrook had, and when he won the MVP, I think the Thunder were the sixth seed. You know, after Kevin Durant left, and they
Yeah.
gave the MVP to Russ, and people were like, he doesn't deserve it. He's a stat patter. And I love how Shea's like, he had a fucking 50-point triple double, the game winning buzzer beater for a team that had absolutely no business making the playoffs. I'm like, yes, preach.
Yes.
Like preach. That team, like Russell Westbrook was amazing. Amazing for that stretch. Like nobody else did that except for like Oscar Robertson, back years ago. Like we haven't seen anybody do that. So give him his flowers. Joe Johnson isolation plays. I remember loving that Atlanta Hawks team, ISO Joe.
Team
Roy
Joe
Hibbert's
Johnson.
verticality, although very very short as far as timing and how long he was in the league, he was one of the best centers defensively in the NBA, and you witnessed it.
Yeah.
Pacers were a legitimate threat to that LeBron Wade Bosh Big Three Heat team.
Still have nightmares about that.
I know. I didn't mean to bring that up to you or anything like that. I wasn't doing that on purpose, but I was
Yeah.
rooting for the Pacers at that time.
The
But yeah,
whole
dude,
country was.
you can do whole chapters on all these. Patrick Ewing covered in sweat 2 minutes into the first quarter. Penny Hardaway in the pinstripe Orlando Magic jersey. Like, dude, that's another thing
Come
too. Is
on,
like, so
man.
again, I was 5 in '96. Penny was on that Magic team. When was he drafted? He was in the Chris Webber draft the year after
Yeah.
Shaq, right? '93. And I remember like LeBron when he came out with the Sprite commercial, just my dad saying, Little Penny was better. Like, because I'm like that's like I had to go back and like rewatch the Penny Hardaway Sprite commercials. I'm like, yeah, he was better. Even he had Little Penny and all that stuff. Like Penny Hardaway was a cool basketball player, and that those Orlando Magic jerseys, the white with the blue pinstripes, were so awesome.
Yes.
They would have been
Yes.
bigger if Nick Anderson could just hit a couple free throws, but
Expensive.
expensive. He was not an expensive player. No, I'm sorry, Nick. I don't mean to
No.
Yeah, DeMar DeRozan dapping up ghosts on empty free throws, which
So
I
good.
did get a chance to realize when the Bulls did trade for him. I did notice that. So yeah, there's just so many things here that just wants me to like. I wish I could just go back and just watch like 2006 2 hour long video of hey, what happened in the NBA this year.
I'm just sitting over thinking Shea could come out with a YouTube series and just play the highlights or like play some of these moments back and just read the chapter over it. And I think it just absolutely just tally up a ton of views. This is I'm just floored with how he was able to put this together and make it make sense. Because when I was telling people I was reading Expensive Basketball, they're like, "What is that?" And then
Mhm.
you explain it to them, and they're like, "Oh, I guess that does make sense." And until you're like sitting there, absolutely like reading it, I feel like there's nothing else that can compare. That you have got to sit there and all of a sudden you're like, yeah, that makes sense. Yes, that makes sense. Yes, that makes sense. So if you're a basketball nutcase like we are, this this is the book for us.
Yeah, go buy this book. Go read this book. Let us know what you think about this book. And if you don't like the book, then you're just not a basketball fan. That's my take. Dude, I love the game 7 chapter.
Oh, that was yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Like I
yes.
want to
That
go back
was
and
fun.
watch all these games. Like of course I've seen a bunch of them like, post 2000. Like I can remember when the Lakers beat the Blazers when they came down from 15. I remember because I was rooting for the Blazers because Scottie Pippen was on that team. I remember when the Lakers beat the Kings. I remember when the Mavericks beat the Spurs. Amazon Prime has a Game 7 documentary, and it was cool to see that Dirk finally got over the hump against San Antonio. I remember when the Heat beat the Spurs in the 13 finals. Game 6, Ray Allen hits that corner
Oh,
three off the miss, and for some reason, Greg Popovich took Tim Duncan out on that play, which makes no
unbelievable.
sense. The Cavs and the Warriors in the 16 finals, one of the greatest finals performances of all time. LeBron James, Cavs came down from 3-1 against a 73 um, and 9 Warriors team the same year Kobe retired, which I didn't even put two and two together until this book. So like, yeah, it's just like all these nuggets where you're like, yeah, that's right, that happened, or that happened the same year. Like, because there's so much. You and me watch so much basketball. It's hard to put together in our brains like when this happened, when this happened. We just remember the moments.
Yes, yes. And I love how recently this is, and that he's able to talk about the stuff at the Olympics, and he's able to include a picture of Jokic where it's coming up to it's a 2025 release, and he wrote
Yeah,
literally. I think he said he wrote one of the last chapters in June of this year. So it is. There's recent things in here, and I'm floored with how well this is done. Oh, that Steph chapter really got me. I Before we get out of here, though, the Grail stories and ghost stories,
that was my favorite part of the book.
that that part, I didn't know what to expect when I got there, and I he took me on a trip, and I love that he went through every single team with this part of the book. This was so interesting, and I would agree with a lot that he did put up there, including the Pacers. How the Pacers made Tier 1 is beyond me, but I appreciate the love from Shay. That's absolutely he's spot on with the Ghost and Grail story for the Pacers.
My favorite thing about that chapter was part 3. I legitimately got pissed at Shea for a moment
Ooh,
because the Grail story for the Bulls, it's Tony Kukoc game winner that he hit against the Knicks in Game 3 of the Eastern Conference Semifinals in 1994. It's like, what? And then, like, 3 pages later, I was just kidding earlier when I said that the Tony Kukoc shot was the Grail story for the Bear Bulls. Obviously, it's not that. Obviously, it's Michael Jordan's championship winning, legacy crystallizing, art is sport, and sport is art jumper over Brian Russell in the 1998 finals. Obviously, it's that. Obviously. I'm like, okay, thanks, Shay. You're
that's
one of
so
us.
good.
Like, just like the comedy that went into this book, it just makes it so easy to read and so fun because, like, it kind of it goes in places you wouldn't expect it to go, and
Yep.
then you get through that chapter and like, I see what he did there. Like the whole thing when I mentioned at the start of the podcast when he compared Allen Iverson to Jesus, I'm like, okay. that's weird. Where you're going here? And then it made sense at the end.
Man, literally like 5 minutes later, I was like, I can't believe he made this make sense.
How did you make this make sense?
Oh, that it's fantastic, and I'm glad. Thank you, Cody. Thank you for texting me and telling me about this book because that was unprompted. I, I don't, I don't talk about reading that much at all. I do set goals for me to read a certain amount of books each year, and I always failed. This year, I succeeded. I said four. This is my fourth book that I read, but this was so much fun to dive into, and I haven't had a book this exciting in a couple months. This was great. This like for this to wrap up my year in reading for 2025. I give this whole year a standing ovation. That this is a great way to kind of start my book journey, so to say.
I mean, I have the only concern I have is that it can only go downhill from here because this book is so
Yeah,
good. It was so good.
y- we should totally do more of these. We should. This could be our book club, Cody.
Dude, I'm down for that. Like I remember so I wanna just say something here because like I was like I remember reaching out to you with this idea that, hey, man, like us and I about a month ago started a podcast and we were thinking like we want to bring
I
different
know where this is
perspectives
going.
in. And I was like, George, like we can do a podcast. We can do anything we want. We can do a book podcast. And then you were like, Cody, I'm not doing a fucking book podcast. And now, fast forward about a month later, we're doing a fucking book podcast because this book was that fucking good.
It was good. I think we got halfway. I was like, we got to talk about this.
Yes.
we,
Yes.
we've got to talk about this. Yeah, sometimes it's just that good. You got to dive in, and I'm glad I dove in. I'm glad that absolutely killed this. I can't wait to tell him. I'm going to just send him. I don't need it on Twitter. I don't need any recognition from it. I'm just going to send him just a DM and just be like, dude, thank you, thank you for writing this book and just reaffirming how much fun basketball is and why I love this game because as much as I will sit there and try to explain to people why I can sit there and watch any type of basketball, these are the moments.
Exactly.
These are the people that like really built that for me. And for somebody to kind of see it the same way I see it, and I'm telling you, I just agreed with damn near everything that was in this book. He did a fantastic job. This was great.
Totally. And like, I want to go back really quick too, because I mentioned a couple of times I didn't realize I was in the same year. The Dirk Nowitzki championship. I thought that was just like for him personally was such an achievement because there was a guy that stayed in one spot his whole career, was an
Yep.
MVP, was a number one seed, made the finals, and could not get over the hump. And that year, if you remember, my Bulls, Derrick Rose was the MVP of the league, and they lost in five to the Miami Heat. And I almost didn't even want to watch the finals, but I'm like, yeah, well, shit, Dirk's in it. And I feel like that was one of the most fun championships I've ever watched. And to see Dirk get that and to see Shea talk about that whole run that he had when they beat the Blazers, who was one of my favorite teams. I've told you this, when they had
Yes.
Brandon Roy and Batum and Matthews and Aldridge, and then they sweep the Kobe Powell Lakers coming off back-to-back championships. And then they beat a Thunder team that has Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden. And then they beat LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh. I just want to say, in my lifetime, that was the best championship run as far as who they beat to get there and who they beat in the championship. The collective talent. I mean, you have to use two, maybe three hands to count the amount of Hall of Famers that Dirk Nowitzki got by in that
Yeah.
finals run.
I remember wearing my Dirk jersey after they won, and I was so proud. I was a big Dirk fan. That still one of my guys. He's definitely a GG, a
Hey,
George guy.
by the way, Dirk Nowitzki has a cameo in the movie Hustle, so
I can't wait to watch that movie.
we'll
I
do
can't wait.
we'll do a Hustle podcast immediately
Love,
after.
love. You mentioned a name though. I'm gonna add his chapter in here. Shay's got to dive into Brandon Roy.
Yeah, dude. I think would be really interesting is doing a what if book on all about injuries that ended careers. Derrick
It's,
Rose, Brandon Roy, Grant Hill, Bill Walton. Like you can go back to not necessarily even ending their careers, but just like completely change their careers where they were considered to be like the next big thing and just injuries. Sean Livingston, another one. Like there's so many guys you can go into and a lot of them still had successful careers, some of them didn't. But just I mean, Brandon Roy, I think, was an expensive basketball player. Derrick Rose, I know was. Bill Walton definitely was. He has some mentions in this book, so that would be a fun thing to talk about as well.
yeah, Shay, don't forget about the people who gave you the great idea to do a what ifs book based off of basketball. You're welcome.
Jay, if you're listening to this right now, I just appreciate you as a fan of sports and how. And this is not me sucking up to you and hoping you bring me on a show one day. It's honestly like this is seriously my favorite book of all time.
Yeah, it's really good, and I would recommend it to anybody that likes basketball. And even if you don't like basketball and you just were in the moment for some of these, no matter what age it is, the Larry Bird chapter,
Oh,
fantastic,
the Shaq
fantastic.
chapter we didn't mention,
Yes,
incredible.
and I can't believe I've gone this long without mentioning my boy Reggie.
Reggie,
The fact that Shay loves Reggie also
it's
adds a
his favorite
little
player.
bit. Yeah, adds a little bit on
Yeah,
there.
that's
So
funny
yes.
too. He's a Spurs fan, but his favorite player is Reggie Miller. I just think that's awesome.
So it's once again, we're on the same page. I'm a Pacers fan. My favorite team is the Sacramento Kings from 2001 and '02.
Yeah, yeah.
We
I'm a
get each
Bulls
other.
fan. I'm a Bulls fan. My favorite player will always be Kirk Heinrich. This is when I started watching basketball, but I have like two categories. My favorite basketball player that was never a Bull is Carmelo Anthony, and he talks about Carmelo Anthony in this book too in the missed section.
Does
So there, yeah, there's. I just love basketball. I could talk about it for hours. And if you're one of those people, read Expensive Basketball by Shea Serrano. Thank you for listening all the way through. Make sure to follow us on socials: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube. Catch us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you have 10 seconds, leave a review and a little something, little comment helps grow the show, continue to bring you more podcasts. We have a Wishes podcast coming up. Austin and I did Greatest Actors and Actresses. Jason versus Michael Myers. That'll be a fun debate. All those coming in the near future.